Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Nothing like cramming food down your throat.
We're just sitting here having our own conversation. We'll just totally forget about being on the radio.
Yeah, talk about parenting and how Patrick does not need kids. I don't know if they would survive the experience. I might not either.
I've got two.
Yeah. Well, you can keep them. I just don't think it would work for Patrick.
And even that gets harder and harder.
Yes, I'm going to not understand why a child acts like a child and not an adult. That's just, I'm never going to understand that. Why won't you act grown up? Well, it's because I'm 6, Dad.
Girls, if you're listening, we're joking.
Yes. Yes. I'm not joking. He is. I don't want kids. Anyway, okay, getting on with the show here. Second segment of the Patrick Riggins Show. One of the quickest shows on the radio today. And why is that? It's because we have so much stuff going on that it goes by quickly. For me, too. Now, this last week, Representative Ron Paul gave what he called his farewell speech from the floor of the House of Representatives. If you're a regular listener to this show, you know what a great fan of his we are here. And I would like to play you his whole speech, but unfortunately, we don't have the time on this show for that. Not to mention it'd be redundant since it is available on C-SPAN's website. Plus, it is better for you to have to go out and find it because doing so will get you used to doing research on the internet and checking up on what people are telling you. I will give you a shortcut to it, though, if you'd like. You can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. There you'll see the link posted over there. If you click on it, you'll be taken to the page on C-SPAN's site where the speech has been archived. Now, you don't have to have an account on Facebook to access our site. Just type in the address, and you can see everything listed there. It is a public page. You'll get a pop-up on the page asking you to sign in for a Facebook account. Don't bother with that if you don't want to. You'll see the link there below the pop-up. Just click on it, and you'll go to Ron Paul's speech. Now, I do have a few clips from it. As I said, the whole thing is worth a listen if you have a chance. He makes a lot of good points. To be honest, though, it isn't anything you have not heard said by me right here on this show. But now, I'm not equating myself to Ron Paul. I'm just saying you've probably heard this already. But I realize some people like to hear it from another source, so there you go. Dr. Paul starts out with what he sees as the problem with Congress today.
The major stumbling block to real change in Washington is the total resistance to admitting that the country is broke. This has made compromising just to agree to increase spending inevitable since neither side has any intention on cutting spending. The country and the Congress will remain divisive since there's no loot left to divvy up.
So with this problem, and as you have heard on the show, why do people of this country stand for it? Why do we have a low voter turnout? Why do we not have a huge surge of people voting Libertarian? This question is asked by Dr. Paul as well.
If liberty is what we claim it is, the principle that protects all personal, social, and economic decisions necessary for maximum prosperity and the best chance for peace, it should be an easy sell. Should we have authoritarianism or liberty? If authoritarianism leads to poverty and war and less freedom for all individuals and is controlled by rich special interests, the people should be begging for liberty.
Part of the answer lies in the fact that we as humans tend to not want to deal and face the realities of life. In the past, you didn't have a choice. You had to deal with the realities of killing something if you wanted meat, building some type of shelter, growing something to eat, defending yourself and the ones you cared about from the aggression of other people, or even animals. All these things had to be dealt with, or there is the very real possibility that you or someone else could die. And Dr. Paul addresses this blindfolding ourselves attitude in this clip.
As long as most people believed the material abundance would last forever, worrying about protecting a competitive, productive economy and individual liberty seemed unnecessary.
This point should not be taken as a slam against nice things, enjoying the fruits of your labor and the level of society in which you live. Here, Congressman Paul makes it clear he is talking about caring about material goods and forgetting about maintaining liberty.
It is good that material abundance is a result of liberty, but if materialism is all that we care about, problems are guaranteed.
So what happens when we decide to focus on things, our success, making sure we make it, and not worried about what the government is up to, what they may be trying to get away with while we're worrying about our individual situation?
Bigger government, more spending, more debt, more poverty for the middle class, and a more intense scramble by the elite special interests will continue.
What he is emphasizing is that if we do not keep an eye on what is happening in our government, now not just Washington, but at all levels, the people we elect, our representatives, are going to sell us out to the highest bidder. Now the founders knew this. Why do you think they were so keen on trying to be sure no branch of government dominated the system? Why do you think they wanted the majority of the power to remain in the hands of the people? Precisely to avoid what we have today. Government for sale to the highest bidders. Just knowing about the problem is not good enough, though, as we hear in this next clip.
If the underlying cause of the crisis is not understood, we cannot solve our problems. The issue of warfare and welfare, deficits, inflationism and corporatism, bailouts and authoritarianism cannot be ignored.
We need to understand the issues at hand. Otherwise, we are going to be subject to the quality of the analysis being presented. Whatever the talking heads on television say, whatever the bloggers say, heck, whatever you hear on the radio, even this show, you need to be sure and run everything through your BS filter, your freedom and liberty filter that you are developing by listening to this show each week. It might not happen immediately, but it will happen over time as you listen. You will start to hear the talking points that are said over and over that ultimately are being put out in order to restrict your freedom in some way, to make it easier to make you a compliant and subservient population. Do you think the government wants a bunch of people talking back? Are you crazy? No government wants that. In this next clip, Dr. Paul talks about hearing these supposed freedom-loving people in the government.
Everyone claims support for freedom, but too often it's for one's own freedoms and not for others. Too many believe that there must be limits on freedom. They argue that freedom must be directed and managed to achieve fairness and equality, thus making it acceptable to curtail through force certain liberties. Some decide what and whose freedoms to be limited. These are the politicians whose goal in life is power.
No better words could be said to cut through all the BS from the politicians and the bureaucrats. You can't forget them. They both want power. And in order for them to have power, you have to have less freedom. More freedom for you equals less power for them. So you know which side of the equation they are going to be working on, their power.
Our job for those of us who believe that a different system than the one that we had for the last 100 years has driven us to this unsustainable crisis is to be more convincing that there is a wonderful, uncomplicated, and moral system that provides the answers. We had a taste of it in our early history. We need not give up on the notion of advancing this cause. It worked, but we allowed our leaders to concentrate on the material abundance that freedom generates while ignoring freedom itself. Now we have neither, but the door is open out of necessity for an answer.
And we have the answer. Freedom and liberty. That is the only answer. The question is, will you help in spreading this message? Are you going to start educating yourself in the Constitution? And more importantly, educating your children, your grandchildren, co-workers, friends, and even neighbors? Are you going to help lead them to enlightenment in the ideals of freedom and liberty, to the liberating mindset that what other people do is none of your concern, as long as they are not infringing on your liberty and you are not infringing on theirs? I can tell you it is almost a spiritual awakening when you realize this, when that light finally turns on in your head that you are the solution. You have the power to change things, but you have to exercise it. Because like a muscle, if you don't exercise your power to make the changes that need to be made, that power will atrophy. And in the political system, you'll actually end up losing that power to the government through the restrictions of your freedoms. Take a second and think about all the power over your life that you have lost and the subsequent freedom. I think you'll be surprised, and maybe it will even motivate you to start helping turn the government around. All right, we're up on the bottom of the hour break already. See how fast this show just flies by. This is the Patrick Riggin Show, and we'll be back after these important messages. Be sure and listen to them. These are the companies that keep us on the air. Be sure and, heck, if you don't need what they're selling, at least call them and thank them for sponsoring the Patrick Riggin Show. This is Patrick Riggins. We will return after a couple of minutes.